You pick it up without deciding to. Your thumb already knows the motion. The screen lights up before your mind even asks why. But the real answer is far stranger than boredom or habit. It has almost nothing to do with the phone in your hand. It has to do with a savannah you have never seen. It has to do with a hunger you no longer feel. Your brain is not addicted to your phone. Your brain is doing exactly what it was built to do 100,000 years too early for the world it now lives in. Start with a simple question. Why does checking feel good even when there is nothing new? Why does the pull come back minutes later, like a tide? The answer lives inside a small cluster of neurons near the base of your brain, in a region called the ventral tegmental area. This is where dopamine is made. And dopamine, despite its reputation, is not the chemical of pleasure, it is the chemical of anticipation. In the 1990s, a neuroscientist named Wolfram Schultz ran an experiment on monkeys that would quietly rewrite what we understood about reward. He trained monkeys to expect a squirt of juice after a light flashed. At first, the dopamine neurons fired when the juice arrived. That made sense, but as the monkeys learned the pattern, something shifted. The neurons stopped firing for the juice itself. They started firing for the light. The brain had moved its excitement earlier, from the reward to the promise of the reward. That single discovery explains more about your phone than any app designer ever could. You are not craving the message, you are craving the moment just before you know if there is a message. Now add a second piece. In the early 2000s, a researcher named Kent Berridge, working at the University of Michigan, separated two things people had always assumed were the same: wanting and liking. He found that the brain's wanting system and its liking system are almost entirely different circuits. You can want something intensely and barely enjoy it once you have it. Sound familiar? That is the exact shape of the pull toward your screen. The want spikes, the check happens, the liking barely registers, and the want begins rebuilding almost immediately. But why would evolution build a system this cruel? Why give an animal a craving that reward can never fully satisfy? Because for most of human history, that craving kept you alive. Picture your ancestors 40,000 years ago, moving through tall grass at dusk. They are not checking a screen. They are checking the horizon, checking the tree line, checking the sound behind them. That might be wind, or might not be. Anthropologists who study modern hunter-gatherer groups, like the Hadza of Tanzania, have documented just how much of daily life is built around this kind of scanning. Researcher Kristen Hawkes, who has spent decades studying Hadza foraging behavior, found that successful foragers are constantly sampling their environment, checking a bush, moving on, checking another. Most checks find nothing. A few checks find everything. This is called intermittent reinforcement, and it is one of the most powerful behavioral patterns ever documented. In the 1950s, psychologist B.F. Skinner discovered that animals rewarded unpredictably will repeat a behavior far more compulsively than animals rewarded every single time. A pigeon that gets food every time it pecks a liver will peck it occasionally. A pigeon that gets food only sometimes on no fixed schedule will peck it obsessively long after the food stops coming entirely. Your ancestors were pigeons in a much larger cage, except the lever was the world itself. Checking the ridge for predators, checking the bush for fruit, checking the water hole for danger or for company. Most checks found nothing. That was fine, because the ones that did find something were sometimes the difference between eating and starving, between noticing the lion and becoming its dinner. Evolution does not reward comfort. It rewards vigilance. So it built you a brain that treats uncertainty as urgent, a brain that lights up more for the maybe than the yes, a brain that feels a small itch of unease every time there is unchecked information sitting nearby, unresolved, unknown. Now put that brain in your pocket. Your phone did not create this craving. It found it, already fully formed, sitting inside every human skull, and gave it something to point at. Every notification is a rustle in the grass. Every unread message is a shape in the distance that might be nothing or might be something. Every scroll is a horizon that keeps extending itself, offering one more patch of grass to check before you decide there is truly nothing here. This is why the pull really feels like enjoyment. It feels like itch relief. You are not scrolling because the last video was so wonderful you need another. You are scrolling because some old buried part of your brain has classified the unchecked feed as unresolved risk. And unresolved risk gets priority over almost everything else. There is a modern mirror to Schultz's monkeys that almost nobody notices. Slot machines are engineered using the exact same principles Skinner documented 70 years ago, deliberately tuned to variable reward ratios. Casino designers do not hide this, they study it. Your phone's feed, whether anyone admits it or not, behaves the same way. Not because someone copied a casino on purpose in every case, but because any system optimized for engagement will drift toward the same shape human brains already reward most: uncertain, intermittent, unpredictable. You were not weak for feeling pulled toward it. You were simply ancient technology meeting a very new one. Here is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Your ancestors' checking behavior had a built in stopping point. The savannah is finite. Eventually, you reach the ridge. Eventually, you see the waterhole and know what's there. The uncertainty resolves and the craving quiets. Your phone has no ridge. There is no final scroll where the horizon ends and the checking is complete. The feed regenerates itself before your thumb even lifts. You are foraging in a landscape engineered to never run out of unexplored bushes. That is not a flaw in your willpower. That is a mismatch between an ancient reward system and an environment that has learned to exploit it perfectly. So, what do you do with a brain like this? You cannot delete the dopamine system. You would not want to. It is the same system that makes you curious about a new idea, that makes you excited to see someone you love, that makes learning feel like discovery instead of labor. The wanting circuit built your curiosity, your ambition, your reason to keep moving forward into an uncertain future instead of freezing in place. The goal was never to kill the craving. It was to stop confusing an infinite, engineered horizon for a real one. To notice, in the moment your thumb reaches for the screen, that you are not checking for a lion. You are checking a feed that was built quite deliberately to imitate the feeling of one. Tonight, when your phone buzzes on the nightstand and your hand moves before your mind agrees to it, remember what is actually happening underneath. There is no rustle in the grass. There is no ridge, no waterhole, no genuine unresolved danger waiting in the dark. There is only a very old brain doing a very old job in a world that finally learned how to ask it to work overtime.